And I've had times of extreme, deep depression, to the point where I wanted my life to end prematurely. A long time I viewed God as being this kind of angry, taskmaster who was looking to try and catch me out whenever I made a mistake. You're met with a loving embrace and met with forgiveness. When I was 4 years old, I turned to my mum as she was reading me a story, I think from the Bible, or from a book that had Bible stories in it, and I said to her, I want to know who this person Jesus is. Yeah, and then throughout my teenage years, I went to church, and that was where my kind of main friendship group was. But as I got a bit older, as a lot of teenagers do, I got into experimenting with drugs and drinking too much alcohol. And over a period of years, my life started aligning much less with the values that I'd been raised with, certainly in our home, and also what I heard about on a Sunday morning, and more with what I was seeing on TV or hearing in a lot of the music that I was listening to. When I got to my late teens, I had the opportunity to go to university. It was exciting for a time. It was enjoyable, and I thought I was really having a good time, but very quickly I became depressed, and I really was not enjoying my time there, and I wasn't doing that well. And I remember coming home one weekend and sitting down with my parents and just confessing the things that I've been doing. I was like, I've been getting into relationships that I shouldn't be into, and I've been drinking too much and messing around with drugs a bit. And I said, I know that I need Jesus, but I just don't know how to get back to him. And my parents said, well, it's easy, you just ask. But I was so lost and so caught in the depth of what I was in, and so blind to his love and his care and his acceptance of me, irrespective of what I'd gotten myself into, that I couldn't see it. And they prayed with me right in that moment. I think it was an addiction to pornography that had lasted about 5 years was just broken in that moment. Something tangibly changed from inside of me. I felt free. I've been trying to break this thing for years with no success, but this time I wasn't doing it in my own strength. There was something that was empowering my decision to be able to do it, that was beyond me, but that also was becoming, a part of me. All the misery that I was experiencing and the sense of rejection began to just kind of began to fall away. The people that I was living with at the time saw a tangible change in my behaviour, where I'd just been really, I suppose, probably quite withdrawn and not happy a lot of the time. I was going out with them, but I wasn't drinking anymore. Or I'd have a couple of drinks and I'd be the most excited, most, the happiest person there, and they couldn't figure out why. And I was like, this thing's happened to me. I've had an encounter with Jesus. During that time, I also started reading the Bible a lot. The Bible is full of promises for the human race, and I started beginning to accept those things for my own life. There are so many things which want our time, want our energy, and people are starting to realise how quickly they disappoint. There is a source of life which there's a promise which is given in one of the main books in the second half of the Bible, which talks about the fact that when Jesus came, he came to give us life, and life in abundance. And who wouldn't want that if that's on offer? If you recognise that that's freely on offer, who wouldn't want that? As the years progressed, sense of joy, I kept experiencing it. There were also times of quite deep sadness. In my early 20s, I had a breakdown, and I began questioning a lot of what I believed at that time, and the marriage that I was in at the time, which I thought held together, ended a lot sooner than I'd ever had any intention. And what that left me with for a number of years was a deep sense of guilt and of shame of not being able to hold things together. And I am pleased to say that I've been freed of all of that guilt and shame, and I had a very high view of the importance of marriage and a long-term committed relationship. But that is something which I value even more now, and part of what has come as a result of what I've been through is I've been able to give counsel to other people and have a numbers of friends where I've been able to speak into their lives, and they have successful relationships based on the wisdom that I've been able to share with them. There's a wonderful story in the Old Testament, in the first half of the Bible, where a young man is sold into slavery against his will, and he's imprisoned for 13 years. And at the end of it, the people that have sold him into slavery, he ends up there, his brothers, and he ends up coming back into relationship with them, and they're petrified about how he's going to treat them. And what he says is actually what Satan or the devil meant for evil, God intended for good. And that is the story of my life. All of the things that have been intended to try and hinder me, and that I've thought, oh, how on earth could I ever recover from this? They've become the areas of my life where I'm strongest, and where I've been able to assist other people in some of the most challenging and heart-wrenching and often, sadly, life-ending scenarios that people go through. Pretty much everyone at some point in life will have challenges with their mental health, and statistically, men tend to be not as well equipped to talk about their feelings. We tend to hold things in, and I did that for a long time. There's a collection of books within the Bible called the Psalms, which there's a lot of poetry in there, and there's nothing quite like the way that I have felt seen when I read the Psalms. And there's one in particular which I've found incredibly powerful, and it speaks to the sanctity of life. It speaks to the wonder of the human form. It talks about us having been crafted in our mother's wombs, and that all of the days of our lives being planned out ahead of us, and of the opinion and the view that God has of us. What's contained is there, as we're told we're valuable and we're significant, and that we are all of these things, that wherever we go, we cannot hide ourselves from God. And it's so important to recognise who this God is that's being spoken about, because for a long time I viewed God as being this kind of angry, like, taskmaster who was looking to try and catch me out whenever I made a mistake. And there is no doubt Yahweh, who is the God of the Bible, who inspired the words of the Bible, has a perfection within his character which is unlike any human being at all. But there is verses in the Bible which actually speak about what Yahweh's character is actually like, and it's repeated all the way, throughout the book many times. And the description of character that is given is of Yahweh being slow to anger, steadfast, and full of love. And I find that just so freeing. It allows me to know of Yahweh's perfection, but also know that I'm free to make mistakes, and like a child who falls over and grazes their knee when they're trying to walk, rather than the parent being angry at them that they've maybe gotten blood on part of their clothes, or that they've got to lean down to pick them up, you're met with a loving embrace and met with forgiveness. As I have continue to grow my relationship with Jesus, I also have, alongside that, have the challenges with my mental health continued, and I've had times of extreme, deep depression, to the point where I've wanted my life to end prematurely. And after a number of very challenging months and some health challenges which were quite complex, I found myself in a place where I tried to take my own life. And I had, like many people during the lockdowns, a lot of the things that I'd put in place to manage the challenges that I had with my health, I wasn't able to do them, and so my health really, my mental health really suffered. And at one point, I'd spent 45 minutes on hold to Samaritans, when I imagine they must have just been completely overrun with calls and with people needing the assistance that they provide. And on this day, which was sometime after that, I just I felt incredibly low, and I just as I said, I tried to end my life sooner than it should do. And as I was in the process, I heard an audible voice say to me, "You don't want to go this way." And I stopped what I was doing. I've been battling these type of thoughts for large parts of my adult life, and cannot downplay the significant impact they have on a person, and how they just having to fight those type of thoughts, the way that it just drains your emotional energy and makes it so hard to just function in normal things. Where in my early 20s, before this stuff got really bad, I carried all sorts of responsibilities and looked after lots of other people, but the continuation of the maintaining of my good health has been me having to go on a long journey of really understanding myself and understanding how to look after myself and be kind to myself without being selfish, and recognizing that actually, if I want to continue to be able to look after people in a way that really brings them life, then I need to know how to do that for myself as well. I'm still getting used to saying it, but I'm so grateful to be alive. And actually, where there have been times where I was just saying that because of knowing that gratitude plays a huge part in dealing with those thoughts of not wanting to be alive, now I can actually say it with real conviction and talk about how much more hope I have for life and how much more I value life. And I've been empowered to actually help other people, to assist other people in walk alongside other people who are experiencing depression, who are experiencing anxiety, and see them experience a new lease of life that they never had before. There is nothing quite like that. One of the most powerful and life-giving things about being in relationship with Jesus is prayer. The way I suppose that I consistently experience it as this kind of this ongoing conversation, and what that has allowed at times is for me to have been led to pray for people or for situations when people have been in a really tough spot, and I felt like an inner kind of prompt, which I know is a lot more people in humanity experience than necessarily will talk about it. But I think it's important to talk about these things, because that is what it's helped keep me alive, and I know that it's done the same for others. So one of the experiences I have when I'm praying is I often will get pictures, maybe an experience that a person is going through, and on one of the occasions when that happened, I could see a quite large white space and a person dressed all in black in this space, and they were alone, and I felt prompted to call one of my friends, and I was speaking to him, and I started sharing the picture with him that I'd seen earlier that day, and he laughed. He said, the flat that I've just moved into is a literal like blank white space, and I, having not done so for a while, I've just started wearing all black. He said, in fact, I'm wearing all black right now. And the purpose of the picture was for me to be able to encourage him and let him know that his creator, that God sees him, and that he's not alone, and that even though he might be experiencing loneliness, he isn't alone, because he has Jesus in his life, and though he is a believer, actually the experience of being alone but not experiencing loneliness is available to everyone, because knowing Christ is a free gift that is available to everyone, and there is nothing that you can do that disqualifies you from that. All you have to do is ask.